Our little girl's story is a love story, an extremely unique, one-of-a-kind situation of adoption. It's a story of God's love, which is ever present even when humanly speaking, we doubt it. God was, is, and always will be faithful, and has exhibited it time and time again, even when I was doubtful, had a lot of tears, and a lot of fears. About 4 years ago, I started on the journey to adopt by filling out a preliminary application with an agency. But for about a year after that, I didn't pursue anything more. I just kept trying things on my own. And then we began the journey together to pursue domestic adoption. We were officially approved by the agency later that year. The next 6 months after that consisted of paperwork and paperwork and paperwork. We went through background checks, questionnaires, county releases, informational meetings, multiple home study meetings, and multiple interviews too. It led up to our family profile through the adoption agency finally being approved, and we were posted online about a half a year later after that. And that opened us up to having potential mothers who would want to make an adoption plan for their children, and we could finally be matched. We were so excited and elated, my husband and I, but for about 4 months after that, we received multiple fact sheets from expectant parents who wanted to make an adoption plan for their child. We wanted to be considered for each and every situation, so we said yes. Each one that we said yes to brought such excitement and anticipation. I kept thinking to myself after accepting every single fact sheet and saying yes, I said, this is the one for us. This is the child we were meant to have. But each time we were then emotionally let down by hearing that another family was chosen, or that expectant mother had then decided to parent instead. It was an emotional roller coaster that was only just beginning. Through the agency, we fostered a 5-year-old boy for a few months. We thought this was the one we had been waiting for and exactly what God wanted. We tried so hard to make it work and to force things to work out. But a long story short, it was a long few months with that child, with a lot of emotional struggles, tears, and anger. I asked over and over again, God, why? I was angry at God. My husband and I realized through these couple of months that we were unable to meet this boy's physical and emotional needs. The resources that we had didn't match what his needs were. So we had to say no to this boy then. It was also during this time that God revealed through a series of doctor's visits and tests that it would be highly unlikely that I would even ever physically become pregnant or even have a baby in the natural means. I had a congenital uterine deformity that would not allow me to hold a baby. I thought I was doomed in more ways than one. All these fact sheets came out and nobody chose us, and now I couldn't even physically become pregnant. Both physically and mentally, I thought no one would want us now. And now we had to say no to this little boy who really needed a family. Many sleepless nights followed. I was wondering what would happen to this little boy and what would happen to us now. A couple months later, we were actually then put back on the waiting list to be matched through the agency. A few more family profiles were sent, and each one we then eagerly said yes to no matter what. But time and time again, it wasn't meant to happen. In July 2018, I went to my husband and we were wrestling with the decision to renew our home study or not, as it was the annual renewal time. I had had enough heartbreaks and enough emotional turmoil over it all. But my husband said he prayed about it and God told us to just renew it for 1 more year. And then if nothing happens in that year, then we're not meant to have any children, and we'll just move on to whatever other path God has chosen for us. So, that year, in 2018, we went through the home study update. We went through clearance updates, we went through more trainings, and lots of paperwork. I fought with literally every single piece of paperwork through this annual renewal. But my husband reassured me it was going to be okay. He said, just keep going. This is the right decision. If I had my way, I would have called it quits right during that paperwork because it was hard. I grudgingly did the paperwork and we paid the renewal money for that year. I felt it was the right thing to do to just submit to what my husband was saying because he said he had heard it from God. I didn't believe it at the time, but my husband just said, just be reassured and let's just wait and see what this year brings. After that time, there was even a few more family profile fact sheets sent out. I said yes to them again, but we weren't chosen. It was heartbreak after heartbreak. My husband dried a lot of my tears and heard a lot of my frustrations. In the beginning of October 2018, a fact sheet then came out that I didn't even respond to because I was just so mad at God. Our caseworker even emailed me specifically about it because it wasn't what I would normally do. I never even responded to her that time. I was pretty mad at God and had given up in my mind that we were just not meant to have any children. Just a couple of weeks later, in late October 2018, we got a random call on both of our phones. In fact, we didn't even answer it the first time we got the call because we didn't even recognize the number. It was from our agency, a number that hadn't called before because we had never heard from this specific person before. She was a higher up in the agency. We got a call that said a baby had just been born, and a birth mother of this baby had made a very unique adoption plan in her mind, and she knew who she wanted to adopt her baby girl. She had given birth to her baby girl about 3 weeks early, so it was unexpected, but she said, okay, I know who I want. She didn't know us by name, but she knew a circumstance that she wanted. And so this agency called us and said, would you be interested? And it turns out that this little girl's birth mother wanted her to have a family that did not have any other children, so that this little girl could get the attention she deserved. And she had said due to her situation at the time, she didn't have the time, attention, or safety in her situation that the baby needed. And she wanted her little girl to be in a safe and secure environment with both a mom and a dad to take care of her and to raise her. And our little girl's birth mom's only wish was to name her little baby girl. We were asked if we would mind, and we said of course not. So her name is actually a gift from her birth mother. The agency that night, it was that afternoon, told us some other details and said if we're interested in adopting this little baby girl, we would have to be available the next day to come and see, and even possibly pick her up from the hospital. We said of course we'd do whatever we needed to. We would be available whenever needed to, and do whatever it took to take care of this little girl who needed someone to provide for her very quickly. A lot transpired very quickly as we became instantaneous parents overnight. It was literally less than 24 hours from the time we got a call that afternoon to when we needed to go out to the hospital the very next day. We had to gather stuff together, figure out a pediatrician to give our agency that information, and prepare physically and emotionally as much as possible, literally overnight. Let's just say neither my husband or I got any sleep that night. The next day, we went out to the hospital and we were able to meet, hold, and take home our little baby girl. During those first few weeks after bringing her home, God just provided blessings upon blessings of people just pouring out their love on this blessed child and my husband and I. I mean, from meals to her stuff that we didn't have and we didn't even know we needed. Most parents have a good half a year or more to prepare to become a parent. We literally had 24 hours, actually a little less, from that phone call to the hospital the next day. But God knew exactly what he was doing, and he was faithful even when I was not. We once had an opportunity to meet our little girl's birth mom in person and thank her for the gift of life in choosing life for her child and for allowing us to invest in her life. My husband was also able to share with her that day about Jesus' love and that we love others because he loves us. Now, our daughter has turned 2 years old. However, our plan, and we will always be honest and open to her about how God has written this beautiful love story of her life. It's not about us, but what God wants us to do for him. We are not here in this life for us. We are here to trust in God for what he wants us to do and how he wants us to do it. I had tried so hard for many, many years that I could just create a family on my own. But God all the while was saying, just wait until you see what I have lined up for you. My favorite life verse is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, and this has taken on even more meaning throughout this writing and the fulfillment of our little girl's love story. The love of her birth mother, the love of the adoption agency, and everyone working there, and even the love of the people who helped us with her and still help us with her, and above all, the love of God. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Let's just say, when I doubted, God was there to direct me. When I felt like giving up, God gave me a little push. It was through my husband, but he pushed me through him. And everybody can listen to that push, and now I have this amazing blessing who wakes up each day and calls me Mama. There is no greater gift than the gift of life. And I'm thankful each day that I'm a child of God and now a mother to my little girl.